Durag Diaries, yo, what's good, people? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a Europa League. I didn't think I was really going to be saying this, but a final preview. Yes, Spurs are in a final, and there's no better guest that I can get on the show to look ahead to this game. The man himself, Big Six specialist, TOBS. What are you saying, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. As I said, we did a podcast a couple of days ago, and it just feels good to smile.
Yes.
I know there's not a lot to be happy about when it comes to the league, but on this specific topic, we can smile because we're in the final. We've done what we needed to do, and now we got one more game between us and armpits, bro. We want to see armpits.
I need to
Pause.
see
We
the
want to see
armpits,
armpits.
man. It's been so long. So many of us Spurs fans have waited. It's coming up to 20 years now. It's a damn long time, nearly 2 decades since we've seen those armpits. So we're going to make the most of this night out. Try to, hopefully we see the armpits. And if we do, we're going to see some unbearable Spurs fans for I would say a few weeks. It might be a few months. It might be a year. Who knows? It's been a while. I don't know how to celebrate a trophy. I'm going to be acting completely different. But look, people, before we get into any of the actual preview stuff, please make sure you're showing some love, showing your support. Subscribe to me, if you haven't already, and subscribe to TOBS. His channel is in the name of the video as well as the description. And also, like he just mentioned, we do frequently appear on another pod together, New Spurs Order, part of the Touchline group. I've put that link or the link to them in the description of the video, so show some love over there. We frequently appear on episodes every week. If not, it's every other week that we appear on. You'll see us there, so show some love, show some support. But look, there's no better place to start. Europa League final. I suppose let's take it back to the start of the season. We touched on it before in the other pod, but just to go back through that again, do you think it's fair to say that the expectation was that we got to the final, or the expectation that we win, or what was your expectations going into the Europa League at the start of the season?
I think before a ball was kicked, once we saw the league format, the teams in the Europa League, I think everyone was unanimous in saying Spurs absolutely have to make minimum quarters or semis. Like, there's no excuses whatsoever. And then I guess it sort of changed once we actually made the quarters and navigated our way past Frankfurt, which was probably which I would say that was probably one of the tougher opponents we could have drawn. So they were one of the best sides in it. Obviously, they're currently third in their league. So the expectation was to at least make it minimum to the quarterfinals in my mind. But once we got past Frankfurt and we drew Bodo Glimt, no doubt about it, the minimum expectation was to be in San Mamés or San Mames or whatever in May to contest the final. Like, minimum, because we said this already. Like, the squad we have on paper is better than every single team in the competition. And I know football isn't played on paper. I know that, people. I know that. Clearly, I know that, because look at how our Premier League season has gone. But when you think of the fact that the format of the Europa League changed alongside the Champions League, and you think of the fact that the teams that are tougher than Spurs haven't dropped down into this competition, yes, we had to be making it far in this comp. And thankfully, we have done. So, yeah, I think the expectation, at least from our end, as a New Spurs Order collective, and maybe some of the more, I don't want to rubbish our fan base, but some of the more sort of, like, I don't know what word to use, some of the Tottenham fans that actually apply like the right level of expectation for this team, for our size and stature. Of course, minimum expectation is we should be making it this far. We should be.
No, that's the thing there, and I'm glad you said it there. People that actually apply the proper expectation, because everyone could do that. Spurs aren't ready for this. Spurs aren't supposed to win. They can buy into the rival narratives that we aren't to win trophies and so on. Or you put the expectation that we are literally one of the best teams in the competition. Even the bookies, if the bookies have Spurs favorites for something, especially a competition, and that's saying something. We should have got to this position. So I don't think we're going to get into it after, but the celebrations and so on that happened in the change rooms may have been a bit over the top. But for me, it was like looking at start of the season, I need to be in Europa League final. Now, whatever happens in the final, we can see how it plays out. But the minimum expectation is we make the final, especially with this being the first year where no teams drop out from the Champions League. And I think that's a massive part. Like that plays a massive part into getting where we are, because the expectation usually for us is to finish in Champions League football, but now we was unable to do that. You're looking at these competitions, no Champions League teams are falling down. Why can't Spurs go win it? Why can't we go do it? And that's where we're looking at it right now. And from the start of the season, that you've just got to aim for that. You got to concentrate on getting to the final. But like you mentioned there, the journey wasn't so smooth. It wasn't all up, you know. Just starting off with the start of the Europa League campaign, we obviously had a few wins against smaller sides, against Karabag, Ferencvaros, and then AZ Alkmaar, which was a bit of a tricky game at home to them. But after that, then we went on a streak of where we sort of started to lose a few games. For you, when we went through that streak, you know, the Roma, the Rangers, the Galatasaray, was there any point when you started to lose faith or start to be like, hey, this Spurs team, I don't think they're ready to get the job done?
No, because I think winning the first 3 games, we gave ourselves enough of a buffer to afford to drop some points. Because we won our first 3. We scored 3 against Karabag, 2 or 3 against Fenev, whatever their names are, and then 1 against RZ, only conceding 1 goal. So we gave ourselves a bit of a buffer, and I think that run of form sort of coincided with when we had a ridiculous amount of injuries. So I remember, because I went to the Galatasaray and Rangers games, and I remember going to the Galatasaray game, basically almost writing it off, saying like, I'm only here for vibes. I've never been to the stadium. I'm only here for vibes. I don't expect Tottenham to get a result here, because on top of the fact that it's an intimidating ground to begin with, even when we had all our teams fit, we had literally no defense. So I wasn't expecting a strong result there. However, seeing the performance and seeing Osimhen missing those chances, despite them hammering us to dust in the first half and some of the second half, we actually could have got a point there. Yeah. And it showed me that, okay, cool. Like Galatasaray can throw this at you, but you can still get something here with 10 men, mind you, 10 men. Yeah. Because we were down to 10 men that game.
Yeah.
So it showed me that, okay, you know what? We should really still qualify. Away to Rangers, we drew. I wasn't really happy with the performance, especially considering Rangers also had injuries as well. But there wasn't anything in me that expected Tottenham to not make the group stages. I always had belief that we would make the group stages, and I always had the minimum expectation still that you have to make the group stages.
No doubt about that. We have to get through those rounds. And you know what? For me, I didn't start to worry during those games. Yeah, I thought some of those games were a bit unfortunate. I think the Roma game, I always knew going into that game it was going to be a bit of slippery. Like I went to that game as well, and it was Claudio Ranieri's first game. And I don't know if people are paying attention. Since then, I think he's on like an 18-game unbeaten streak in Serie A. They're pushing into top 4. They're going crazy under him right now. So he just got a tune out of those players. He knew what he was doing that game, and just unfortunately we wasn't able to walk away. But I started to worry the 2 games after. I'm not gonna lie. The games against Hoffenheim and Elfsborg were extremely poor. Although we managed to score 3 goals in both of them, I think the way in which we beat Elfsborg obviously was the last 30 minutes. We had all the kids come on. Ajayi picked up a goal, Mikey Moore picked up a goal, and then Scarlett. It was nice to see the young kids get through it, but it started to breed some of those early worries that, is this team ready or made to actually do something in a European competition? Because we always knew, away from home in Europe, this isn't just a new thing, it's a historic thing with Spurs. We are just poor away from home in Europe, and going to these smaller sides and struggling, it really started to show some of that mental fortitude maybe not be there. And I don't know, the Hoffenheim game for me, when you started to see them come back, did you think that they were going to come back in that game? Because there was certain points in that game I was watching, I was like, yo, this could be 3-3 easily. Like, Brandon Austin was saving us.
I thought we were going to, like, I was going into that Hoffenheim game saying we should win this game of football, like, and especially knowing that we had to win the game of football. I was like, you've got Son, you've got Madison, you've got Kulusevski, you've got Bentancur, you've got enough there to go to that ground and win. So again, a loss wasn't on the cards for me. But then when you look at how we played, to your point, in the second half, I was like, bro, these lot are really going to shit the bed, aren't they? They're really going to shit the bed. But thankfully, Hoffenheim missed their chances. Son iced the game, and we were able to sort of see it out. But that's been a constant thorn in our backside for, I would say, the last 16, 17, 18 months, coming up to 18 months, which is irrespective of how we play, whatever position we put ourselves in, our game management for the majority of games we play is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. We don't know when to take the sting out of games. We don't know how to manage the opposition. We don't know how to sort of keep ourselves like rigid and resolute. Like it's not a thing that comes as second nature for Tottenham, which is why some of the recent performances that we've seen in the knockouts en route to the final is like, it's pleasantly surprising, because it's like, so you can play this way. You can play this way. You're just choosing not to play this way. The same way with Liverpool in the first leg, when you saw the resoluteness there, Man City away, when you saw the resoluteness there off the ball, it's like they give us pockets of games where they show good game management, but then for the majority of times, everything is just a mess. It's a mess. But yes, not to deviate from your original point, the last three games, or the last two games, sorry, I didn't really have any doubts, any major doubts, sorry, that we would get knocked out of the competition. Um, but obviously during the game, you have that fear because of just how badly the manager's performing and how the team was at the time. But Elfsberg, I expected 3 points, walkover in my opinion, and then Hoffenheim, I expected 3 points.
Yeah, man. It's more the performances that are worrisome, and it's like you said there. It's the lack of control from us in a lot of the games, especially at that point in the season. I feel like that January period was one of the worst periods I've ever seen Spurs play. I think we lost against Leicester, we lost against Everton, we lost against Arsenal. We pretty much lost all of our Premier League games that month, barring I think Brentford we beat right at the end of the month. But we were just playing poorly. We obviously had quite a lot of the injuries, but it just wasn't helped by the way that we were setting up. There was a lot of adaptations that Ange was trying, and a lot of tactical changes that he was making that just weren't working at that moment in time. But just focusing on those tactical adaptations, we have seen more recently Ange evolve the game ever so slightly, maybe not completely. The performances are still very similar to what they have been prior, but he has slightly changed, like you say, the control aspect, maybe alleviating some of that control to the opponents, giving them a bit more and allowing them to play in front of us while we just get solid defensively. What do you think of the tactics he's imposed in those games against, I suppose, Bodo Glimt, Frankfurt, and probably that second leg against AZ Alkmaar? He showed a little bit of it, but yeah, what do you think of those? Would you say it's an Ange masterclass?
I wouldn't say masterclass when you look at the opponents we're playing, like Bodo Glimt, for all intents and purposes, it's Bodo Glimt. I'm sorry. Granted, I expected a tougher game than they gave us, and you could probably put that down to us actually managing the game better. But I would say Frankfurt is more of a master class, because we went there and I think we did quite well to nullify their biggest threats. I wouldn't call it a masterclass though, but I think it's an example of good coaching, like setting up your team properly, setting up your defense properly, getting your fullbacks to pick and choose when to bomb forward, when to defend. None of this inverted crap where it's not necessary. Being able to be like rigid, defensively rigid. He's normally offensively rigid and defensively loose, but this game was the reverse. Like we were defensively rigid, and lo and behold, we were still able to find a way to score whilst maintaining some sort of defensive stability. And then I think if you look at the players, the performances in the games, the reason why I'm not calling it masterclass is because it's like these are obvious things that you should have done more often this season. So it's like I want to give you credit. I'm going to give you credit for navigating your way through these games. Like it's good. It's an element of good coaching to manage these games the way we did. But then it just begs the question: why haven't we seen this more often? You don't need a star-studded team to set up like this. You don't need a star-studded team to know that your midfielders can't be isolated by themselves, covering three man, covering acres of space, put them next to each other. You don't need a football Bible to understand that your fullbacks should be stationed in positions where they can actually defend against their runners. Like you don't need guidance to know that, oh, I'm away from home. Maybe I should be more narrow. Maybe I shouldn't have all of our players bombing forward for every attack. Maybe I should protect the back line more often. So yeah, that's just where I stand on it. I'm hesitant to call it a masterclass, but he did well in those games, and it just begs the question: why can't you do it more often?
No, that it's exactly that, and it's why can't he do it more often? And the thing that annoys me most is he's coming out in press conferences quite frequently and says like the injuries have caused him to like make changes that haven't worked, and it's sort of restricting him from making some of these tactical adaptations. But the best that we've actually defended has been a lot of the times when we've had injuries, we've made some of the adaptations, we've got a bit more defensive, and it's like, okay, Spurs look a bit more solid. Even when you take it back and they say a few months ago, there was a few games, I think Newcastle, maybe Nottingham Forest, we lost those games, but we looked better defensively. Like we just got a bit more assured at the back, maybe didn't bomb forward a bit so much. Like you said, the fullbacks weren't inverting so much. We've seen recently Udogie going the overlap, and it's like, why hasn't he been doing this all season? Udogie is an overlapping fullback. When we signed him, he was a wing back. Going forward is probably what he's best at. And then last season, he was so well at getting down on those wings, attacking the fullback. It's like we took that away from him, trying to get him inside, trying to get him playing 1-2s. And he's not someone that's gifted on the ball necessarily. He can dribble past the player, take on his man. But when it comes to getting a lot of touches and moving it around in the middle, he tends to lose it a lot. He tends to take bad touches. So he's not someone that I feel like you should be having on that inside role playing inverted. And he's starting to learn that. He's ever so slightly starting to learn that. Pedro Porro, obviously, on the other side, he's a lot better at that. He can play some of the long passes, and we've benefited from him going forward. But also at the same time, his defensive deficiencies also cause us to concede a lot of goals. So it's a bit of a tough one. And I suppose with him, it can be, you know, you've got to accept the good things, but also accept the bad things. But just on Porro in particular, because looking ahead to this final, obviously Porro started a lot of the games as of recently, but prior we had Jed Spence going in. Do you think Porro is the better option going forward over Jed Spence, or do you think that Jed Spence should be the guy playing at right back? Because like you said there, defensively, Spence is definitely more stronger, but going forward, Porro just has, I suppose, an ability second to Trent Alexander-Arnold, because I saw a stat recently that he's got more goal contributions than Trent since joining the Premier League. Not to say that he's better going forward, but he obviously statistically provides just as high as a level.
Yeah. It's an interesting question because I think we were literally talking about it in the group chat the other day. I actually do think Jed Spence overall is a more rounded right back. Do you get what I'm saying? Like Jed Spence he's good going forward. Like he can find good crosses. He can take on his opponent. He's aggressive. He doesn't treat the ball like a hot potato. And then on the defensive end, he's good in 1v1 situations. He wins aerial duels. I do think sometimes he does lose a bit of concentration. Like sometimes he lets people run off him. Like he goes to sleep a little bit.
Especially on the left-hand side, we've seen that a few times,
Yeah,
conceded quite a few goals.
exactly. 100%. I remember games like Chelsea recently against West Ham,
Bournemouth.
Yeah, like you just go Jed Spence, like for someone who's I would say he's a very competent defender. He just switches off. So there's definitely a concentration thing there. But for me, I think he's probably the right back that you want playing more game to game. However, when I look at quality on the ball, Pedro Porro for me far exceeds any other fullback we have. So, sorry, I know it's again a vague answer, but it's like I think we have two options there. You should, as a manager, you have the ability to use them as and when
Good
needed.
selection headache. It's one that you want to have.
Exactly. And right now, I got panned for it the other day, but I'm still going to say it. At this point in time, Pedro Porro is playing better football than Jed Spence. So if you're asking me who I would play in the final on current form, I would start Pedro Porro. I would start Pedro Porro. But if Jed Spence was to start that final, I wouldn't be looking at it like, oh, like what's this? I have confidence in Spence, and he's shown us his quality this season. I just think with Pedro Porro, nobody in the team can do what he can do on the ball. as a fullback. Nobody. Destiny can't pass like him. Spence can't shoot like him. Neither can cross like him. Like I think his qualities on the ball are clear to see. Forget even about just the G&A stuff. Like just this technical quality on the ball alone. Like some of the things he does, the tricks, nutmegs, ball striking, free kicks. He's by far and away our best ball playing fullback. But unfortunately, for him, Destiny and Spence, I think they're more rounded in terms of what they offer to the team. So I'm happy that he's playing well because I think he's had a very poor campaign, if I'm being honest. I think he's had a poor campaign this season defensively and even offensively. I think there's been far too many games where he's not given us that level of quality that you typically expect from Porro. However, he's playing good football at this point in time. So I would keep the hot hand going.
No, and it's exactly that. Is what you mentioned there is Porro's up and down. There's no doubt about that. Going forward, he gives us such a good quality, and then defensively, I would say that he's had a poor season as well. I think for me, as of recently, his performances have looked a bit better. The one slight I think we can give him is he's been our most available player. Probably, I think he's the player with most minutes this season. So there could be at times he may have been suffering with potential, tiredness, fatigue. But the thing is with him, when you watch him play, a lot of the goals that he concedes is usually, like you say, they're similar to Jed Spence, those switches in concentration. He just switches off for a moment and then someone gets to run on him in behind. But going forward, no one offers the quality that he has when it comes to that pass that he played to Maddison for the goal that he scored was just sublime. Like it's obviously something they've been working on in training because we've seen Romero make that pass. It's very similar to the Alderweireld to Delhi link up that we used to see nearly 10 years ago now, which is crazy. But those long balls straight over the top, direct, late runs into the box. And Porro is one of the only players that can do that. For me, I think when you talk about players in the Premier League, I don't think there's many players that can pass a ball or even, let's just say, strike a ball better than him. You've got Trent, you've got Kevin De Bruyne, and then there's probably 3 or 4 other players that are on that level.
I think for I don't know about players in general, but I think for fullbacks, definitely he's right up there in terms of that ball striking, passing in the Prem. But it's the cost and the benefit thing again, right? That's the benefit, but you look at what it costs you as a team. You have someone who's out of position. You have someone who's weak in 1v1s, who isn't. It's weird. He's got pace. He can drive with the ball going forward, but off the ball, he gets brushed. Like very easy to sell. he's really, really poor defensively. So it's a balancing act that the manager really should manage better, knowing when to play Pedro Porro in certain moments where you're going to have line share possession or you want to come out the gates calm. But when you want to play a more measured game and you need more balance, you play Jed Spence. Like it's a good problem to have. And you know me, whilst I've been critical of Pedro Porro, and I've always said he's not an indispensable player and he shouldn't be. You can't play the way you play with how bad you defend and just have carte blanche treatment and just be starting week in, week out. You're not that guy, respectfully. He's a good player, in my opinion, but you're not that guy. You're not Walker. So we were bemoaning the lack of opportunities for Spence. Spence should have been playing and pushing him out of the team long time before he even got his nod in the team. But that being said, it's up to the manager to pick and choose when to play Porro.
Yeah, you got to do it by games, and like I say, there looking ahead to this final, I think Porro's been the man in form. Porro's been the guy that's obviously had a really good game in the last one. Defensively, hasn't looked too shabby. You've got to go with Porro. You got to go with the guys, and I think for finals, that's one thing that you got to be key with is you keep the team that's been playing well, the ones that led into that final shouldn't really make too many variations from that. And I suppose going forward from Porro, looking at the lineup and looking at the potential players that we could play. Obviously, I know Kulusevski is one that we're now not too sure whether he's going to be available. They did say it could be a knock, but they haven't really said whether he's picked up another injury. Just hoping that he is going to be available for that final. But outside of Porro, is there any changes that you'd make to that team that started in the last Bodo Glimt game?
Yes, to be honest. I wouldn't start the players out wide. But if either of them are playing, unfortunately, I can see an argument for starting Brennan Johnson, because he's as much as it makes me sick to say it,
He's our top goal scorer. We literally can't say anything. Like
he's notched goals. He's notched goals in the tournament as well. Like I think he notched against Bodo. He notched against Bodo. But then, as I said, my preference is I would change the wingers. I would start Tell over Richarlison, because I really don't think Richarlison should be playing any sort of football for Tottenham out on the flanks in this system. When you look at how much of the ball the wingers get and how wide they are, and how the tactic is predicated on them getting the ball and doing something with it, doesn't really make sense that it should be Richarlison, even though Richarlison did play decent across the two legs. And then on the right-hand side, yes, we've spoken about his goal threat ability, like ghosting into the right places, the back stick. But I'm sorry, Odegaard showed us against RZ that he could do that as well. He may not do it as well as Johnson, but he could do it as well. And guess what? He's actually going to do more with the ball outside the box. So for me, in that final, I don't want any passengers. I don't want any passengers in the game. And I don't just mean on the ball. I even mean off the ball as well. Brennan Johnson is one of the worst players we have in our team off the ball. He doesn't support Porro, just leaves him hanging there. But that being said, he did work harder in the two legs that we had against Bodo. So, yeah, definitely I would bring Tell in the team. And then personally, I would bring Odegaard in the team, but I can understand why Ange may want to go for Brennan Johnson. You may want to go for the goal threat and you bring on Odegaard in the second half against tired legs.
That's exactly how I've approached most of the games. Is that like I understand why Brennan Johnson started. I think some of the runs that he makes in behind, he picks up goals somehow, some way. A lot of people, as much as we're not big fans of it, he does pick up goals, and you can't take that away from him. So I've always said, put Odegaard on the left, play Matista on the right. You've got two touchline wingers, people that like the ball to their feet, players that are going to run at their man, and ultimately play the way that Ange wants to play football. 100%. He wants wingers like that, and playing Richarlison and Brennan Johnson didn't really make sense at the time, but it got us through the ties. But Starcrow makes a good question here. Who plays in the 10 if Kulu doesn't make the team? If he doesn't make the 10, that's Odegaard in the 10.
I would put Odegaard there, because he played there in a couple of games for Burnley, right? Let's not forget he can play central. He played there centrally for Burnley last season in a couple of games. And to be honest, whilst his final third execution isn't where it needs to be right now, I think you need to play him in there, because he has got ingenuity, and it stops us from having to play that god-awful midfield trident of Bentancur, Basuma, and Sarr. I don't want to see Sarr anywhere near that zone. I don't know what that zone is called. Some of these football nerds will have the zone name, but that zone where in between the lines, where someone's basically picking up the ball and trying to thread it through to the attackers. I don't want to see Sarr in that role, because Sarr is stinking even in his deeper role. Why on earth would I want to see Sarr, who struggles to do what we want him to do in possession, in the deeper part of the midfield? Why would I want to see him in the top end of the pitch, where you need a higher level of quality? Sorry.
Don't you think, though, whenever we're seeing Sarr in there, the only thing that I can praise him for is he's thrown in there to do the marathon job. He's just running around. He's being the dog. He's being the pressing. He's going to literally that. Whenever he's thrown in the 10, he's just a pressing dog. He's everywhere, onto their centre backs, onto their wings. But it's like you say there, it's the quality when he actually does get on the ball. He loses 100%. It. He gives it away.
100%. You need quality. Like, if you look at the games where we've worked Man United. So last season when we beat them 2-0, you saw Maddison was clamped for the first 30 minutes, but then as soon as he turned Casemiro once, I remember took it, like received it on the half turn, turned Casemiro. All of a sudden, the floodgates started to open, because he's making stuff happen, right? You look at this season when we went to Old Trafford, you saw Kulusevski and Maddison, they were jogging in the first half. Like, Kulusevski is a powerful runner. He gets the ball, he carries it, very, very hard to knock off the ball, and then he can pick a pass. Maddison picking passes, combining. You need that sort of, like, I wouldn't even call it just creativity, just that X factor, a player that can just like flip a switch and just do something, just go past the player. That's not Sarr. That's not Basuma. That's not Bentancur. And in the absence of Bergvall, in the absence of Maddison, in the absence of Kulusevski, I would much rather we let Odegaard try and fail in that position. And I would even entertain, someone mentioned it on Twitter the other day, I would even entertain the idea. I don't want him to start, so I think my option is Odegaard. But even in the second half, if Odegaard is not working, right? If Odegaard is not working, I would even try and maybe see if Son can play behind the
That's
striker,
that's what
right?
I was gonna say. I
Because
think Sonny, when you look at him in those like tight spaces, he's not great running at players and so on. But in tight space, he's got a really good pass. He's quick on the quick on his feet. His football
yeah,
IQ is probably ahead of a lot of the rest of the younger players as well. So I know that he's a player who's coming back from an injury. Probably shouldn't start that game. But if we are looking, like you say, for an option, someone who can play in the 10 behind the striker, I think Sonny's the man made for that role. Now, he's probably not going to give us the creative element that you probably need from, your attacking midfielder, but he'll pick up the ball in some decent positions and he'll move it on really quick. So
yeah.
I don't know, Sonny presents a good option.
I think with Son, listen, the way the manager is using Son, I think he's completely cooked. Like, can't really beat his player like that. Like, a lot of games, his impact is not there. But for me, I think there's a quality that Son has always had, and I think he always will have, which is in the box. Not so much he's not done it as consistently this season because I think he is sort of like dwindling in terms of like quality and importance to the team. However, Son's final third execution is still good. Like, he still makes the right passes. If you give him the space and time, he can hurt you, right? And I think bringing him off the bench when the game potentially is opening up, not when the game is tight and congested, when the game is opening up, bringing him off the bench, I think I would like to see him in that position because at the very least he's closer to goal. And
Yes.
even if Odegaard starts, that's the key with Son, play him as close to goal as possible. I don't want to see him picking up the ball on the touchline and trying to drive in. I don't want to see him picking up the ball on the halfway line. No, keep this guy as close to the box as possible because that's where the magic happens with Son. If you play a 4-2-3-1, which is what we should do in the final, and I'm glad that we did it in the semi-final, don't know why we didn't do it more often, you then give your number 10 more license to go forward, even if they lose the ball, like God forbid, but even if they lose the ball, you've got two men screening the defense, ready to snap, to pounce, to try and win the ball back and recycle. That's
Yeah.
how we should do it. That's how we
No.
should do it.
That's I agree. It's crazy that it took so long for that double pivot two-man midfield, especially like Ben Scores looked isolated in midfield all season. He's
Mm,
not being good in that number 6 role. He tried Basuma in there. He doesn't look good all by himself because he's not. Neither of them are 60s. He's tried Sarr and Bergwijn in there, and again, neither of them look great in there because none of them actually play that role naturally. But when you play that double pivot, it works. Spence and Basuma work. They're sweeping up, they're cleaning up together. They both understand their roles, and I think because they're two bit senior players, they understand one go forward, one go back. Like, it's very basic stuff. And when you've
yeah.
got the younger players in there, Bergwijn tends to drift, Saar tends to drive a bit forward and run forward with the press a bit too much. So it's a bit chaotic. Rather, when you have those two in there, it's a bit of calmness here. And like you said there, with the games that we've played against Man United recently, especially this season, it's always been the midfield that the game's been won in. Man United's midfield has been poor. We overrun them. And when I look ahead to this game, I know they've been going again. It's hard to predict what potential midfield they're going to start with because they've got selection headaches. They've had players come back from injury. They've
Mm.
just been going with so many different rotations in there. But I think that, like you said, the double pivot in midfield, potentially a Sonny in the 10 or Odegaard in the 10, just someone who's a bit more creative, someone who can get on the ball in there. Then it looks ahead of being, for
Yeah.
me, it looks being us being more favorable in that battle. But looking at Manchester United, like we mentioned there, we spoke about the games we played against them. I suppose, first of all, what do you think of Amorim? What do you think of his tenure at Manchester United so far? Do you think that if he loses this final, he has to get sacked? Because, I
I think
mean,
he's been shocking, and I think his job definitely should be under threat in the summer. Not even just because he's lost the final. Like, anyone can lose a final. It's more the fact that he's come into the team and he's not improved Man United. They've not improved. I'm sorry, they've not improved. And whilst you don't expect them to be challenging for Champions League because their squad's not good. Their squad is actually quite poor, and they've had injuries to contend with. I just think he's managed the team poorly. They play a defensive setup, yet they concede goals for fun. They don't really get enough attackers on the football pitch to hurt the opposition. They lose the midfield battle most weeks because he basically picks picks a selection of players that can't really play the way that he needs them to play. It's just it's ugly to watch. If I'm him, however, I think I'm worried because one, Mainu is back. Mainu very, very technically secure. Like he's someone who can take the ball under pressure, play it in a busy area. And then I think Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes, I think their form in recent weeks, it does concern me. So it's making me think that the midfield battle is not going to be as heavily skewed towards our side as it has been the last couple of games we played against them. I look at the game when we I look at our most recent game we played against them. We won it 1-0, but I actually think whilst we won the midfield battle there, I think they used the ball better. They played the better football. I remember Xerxes was picking up a lot of space in behind our midfield. I think they had good opportunities, and I do think like it's not going to be as much of a walkover as some Spurs fans think, because in the end of the day, yes, we've beaten them 3 times, but they've won trophies recently when they've gone into the finals. They're a team that actually knows how to win trophies, and they've got trophy winners in that team. They've got Casemiro, they've got Bruno Fernandes, like they've got guys who have won silverware at Man United. So the midfield battle is going to be intriguing to say the least. What I would say is this: I pray they play Ugarte. I don't want them to play Casemiro and Bruno. I pray they play Casemiro and Ugarte in the midfield and they play Bruno in the 10, because at least you're going to have Casemiro running around like a headless chicken. You're going to have Ugarte running around like a headless chicken. But really, irrespective of who they play, we're just going to need Bentancur and Basuma to be on job. Like they have to be on job. They have to be. And I don't think anyone else in our midfield should be starting. Pair them together in a double pivot and let it work. And then if necessary, you bring on Sarr in the second half of the game.
Yeah, no, I think, like you said there, if they start Ugarte and Cass in the midfield, I think we'll get at them. I think we, like you said, Casemiro's had good form as of recently. But when I did watch him in the games against us early in the season, he didn't seem to handle the legs of Kulusevski well. The fact that Kulusevski can roam in those spaces so freely, and he's got high energy. Casemiro didn't like that. He couldn't handle that. But the recent form in recent weeks, Ugarte breaks down the play pretty well. I don't think it's, like I said, it's not going to be as clear cut in the midfield as it was, especially with us missing, Bergval, Madders, Kulu. We're missing some of our key midfielders for this game. And I think, like you say, we're going to look at the bench and there isn't much options off there. So when it comes to looking changes and for us to alternate it, we don't have that option. Whereas Manchester United do. They can bring on Mount, they could bring on a Kobe, they could bring on different types of players, even an Eriksen, that can combat our midfield and potentially bring more creativity and secureness on the ball. Because I think one of the biggest problems they've had is their on the ball stuff. In possession, they've been poor. They're a team that can't move the ball well, and their midfield hasn't pieced it together great. But it's a final, man. And this is where I start to have a little bit of a fear is, like I say, they're building up that form. The team start, even though they've not been good in the Premier League, in the Europa League, let's have it right, they've smashed all their opponents. They've scored 19 goals in the last 3 ties, and the last 3 teams they've played, sorry. So when you're looking at it, it's like that they're really feeling up for this game. This might be one where they just turn up. They all start feeling themselves. They've got that positive energy. And they're going to be ready for this game. So I am wary, and I think we have to be wary, and we have to respect what United do in finals, because we can't just think that we're going to roll over them because we beat them 3 times. I know I've said it. TOBS probably said it as well. Yeah, we beat them 3 times.
Said it. I just don't want. I just don't like them discounting us winning it. I think it's going to be a close game of football. But the way Man United fans are, I ain't even talking. It's Man United fans telling me, "Oh, we're going to smash you. It's Tottenham. This is that and the third." I'm like, bro, you're where you are for a reason. Like I'm going to lean on what we've done up to this point. I'm going to take that into the final, and I think we stand a decent opportunity of beating you. But some of these United fans, Saeed, Aaron, a few others, they're like, "Oh, it's Tottenham. It's a walkover. We're going to do it." All right. I said, "Okay, cool. Let's see. Let's see if you do it. Let's see."
Let's see. And just finally on there, when you say, well, let's see if they do it, what is your prediction for the final? Not even a scoreline, just Just tell us. Just tell us you believe Spurs are gonna win it, man. Just
I do believe Tottenham are going to win it, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried about Man United judge. Genuinely, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried that we could dominate the ball but be careless at the back. And you've got someone like a Bruno Fernandes who's got that final third execution quality to just put us to bed, or Casemiro screamer or Casemiro set piece header. Like, they have those tools in their locker, and that's what's worrying me. I'm not too concerned about our defense. I think we've got enough options available to put in a really good performance, provided the manager sets us up well enough tactically. But I'm worried about that bit between like the deep line midfielder and the attack. With Maddison is the fulcrum of creativity in our team. I'm telling you, he's a humongous loss for Tottenham, and it wouldn't be too bad if we had Kulusevski playing to the level that he was playing at, and he was 100% there physically. But he's not. He's not there. He's not 100%. He's not raring to go. So I'm worried about like the ingenuity in the final third for Tottenham, linking things together. However, I still think we have enough attacking options and we have a good enough back line to win the game in both boxes. So that's what I'm hoping. Let's try win the game in both boxes, and maybe we go away from what we normally do against Man United, which is dominate the midfield. I don't mind. You can have the ball. If we're resolute and I've got Tel on the counter, Solanke on the counter, Odegaard, Son, Brennan Johnson on a counter attack, and we can notch a couple of goals, I'm calm, because in the box, I think we have more finishes than they do. Right, outside of Bruno Fernandes, who have they got to score goals? I know they've scored a lot of goals, but like Højlund,
they've not got goal scorers. They've just
Nacho.
It's all.
It really is Ahmad. It's really Ahmad. Ahmad is the one. It's like the jewel. Like, he's a baller. That's the one I'm like looking at, saying shit. The rest of them, I think we can handle Højlund. I think we can handle Garnacho. So yeah, man, we'll see.
I think we can handle all their players, and like I said, I've got confidence. I've got confidence that we can get it done. Someone asked what's the scale of 1 to 10. I couldn't give you a number. I could just tell you that I'm confident Spurs can get the job, but I'm also wary, and I respect Man United's final record. I would always predict Spurs to win this. I have to predict, and I have to back my club and think that we can get it done there. Like you said there, Tobes, I think if we can just win the game in either boxes, defensively be really good, make sure we're clearing our lines. Romero and Van de Ven just playing how they've played in the previous couple of games, because they've really stepped up when we've needed them. And then the guys in the front line, Dominic Solanke, again, a player that's in form. Can he get a goal? He scored against United a few times this season, as well as last season for Bournemouth. So can he take that into this game and just carry that little bit of confidence that you can score against this team? And I hope so. I really do hope so, because we can have a proper parade, and it could save our season. But
100%, he's in good form as well. Like, I know, granted, he's scored 2 penalties, he only got 2 MPG, but still 4 goals in his last 5 appearances in all competitions. That's the kind of form we want him to have in the lead up to this game. And if we go off the last 2 seasons, there's been no centre back who's been able to handle him. No centre back Man United have played who's been able to handle him. He's dunked on Maguire. He's dunked on Lisandro Martinez. He's dunked on Lindelof. He's dunked on who else do we have? De Ligt, and Lenny Yoro, who's probably been their best centre back on form the last couple of weeks. He's picked up an injury. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. So yeah, man. I think he's just got to look at what he's done. It's not even what he can do. What he's done the last 2 seasons, and use that as inspiration heading into the final, man.
Yeah, man, we got to use that as that inspiration. We got to take it, and hopefully Spurs. Are you going to be down at the final, Tobes? A lot of people asked in the chat, are you going to be in Bilbao?
So I booked my flights to, like I told people, I booked my flights to Bilbao 4 or 5 weeks ago. But I can't go anymore because I have to be in Dallas. I have to be in Dallas for a work meeting, and I basically unofficially had to choose between Dallas this week for work or Dallas the week when the Big Six are going to South Africa. So I can't miss the South Africa trip. So I've had to sacrifice this one. But I've claimed back most of the money for my flights. I say most. I've claimed back like 60%. I lost 40%, but it's fine. If Spurs win, I don't care.
Don't even matter.
Just go win. Just go win.
No, that's you've heard it
You
there. He's
go.
not going to be down at the final, but no, I'm going to be. I'm trying to do watch long, man. I've been doing watch longs for the whole of Europa League, the lead up to it. So I told them, I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna have to do a watch long for the game. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, what logistics. I was thinking of potentially going down to the Spurs stadium and doing like a IRL stream or something, but I can't lie. They said they're not got the screens on the pitch. I was like, forget that. It's just gonna be a load of rubbish. So probably where I am right now in my room, watching the game, going mad, celebrating. Maybe a champers will get popped in here somewhere if we win the game. But yeah, no, not going to be down at the final. We did get one message, someone actually from South Africa, Israel Robertson. Big up Jords and TOBS. Hopes to see you when you come to South Africa, bro. Love your football takes, bro, when you speak with non-biases towards any club. And do you agree Bruno time at United better than Grealish? It's very irrelevant.
Thank you, bro. That's, bro. That's like asking, is water clear? What the hell? Bruno and Grealish.
Easy. I'm sure that's going to be something that comes up within the trip. When you get Big Steve there, it might not be such an easy conversation. He's going to start mentioning trebles and all this.
Bruno at his worst is better than what Jack Grealish has produced at his best at Man City. Not having it. Sorry. Nah,
there's no doubt about that. I think some of the Bruno hate that goes around is a bit forced. He's not pretty on the eye sometimes. I call him grenade launcher football, but it works. It definitely works. So
the thing is, with Bruno Fernandes, he does hero ball, he does force shit, and he is a spam merchant, turnover merchant, whatever you want to call it. But he's still a good footballer. Like a lot of people talk about him like he's some scrub. Like a scrub doesn't do the stuff that he does with a football, like his ball striking, his passing, like his ingenuity with both feet as well. It's ridiculous. People, there's no balance with Bruno Fernandes. It's either he's complete horseshit or he's the best thing since sliced bread. He's neither. He's in between.
Yeah. No, that's it. He's just in between. He's a top player. That's it. He's a top player. And he gets a lot of criticism. But yeah, man, look, people, big up to everyone that's been tuned in for this show. I know it's been in the middle of the day, but look, it's been a pleasure to have TOBS on the channel. I know we're early, but we had to get the Europa League final preview in. We're gonna be doing them daily. We're gonna try and get a few guests on the channel, so keep a lookout for those. If you haven't already, make sure you smash a like button on the video. Subscribe to me if you haven't. Durag Diaries, become a member if you want. The link is in the pinned comment, and also tap in TOBS on YouTube, on Twitter, on all social platforms. But his link to his actual YouTube channel is in the name of the video as well as the description. So show some love over there, as well as don't forget new Spurs order, man. You see us if you want to see more shows of me and TOBS together. We frequently appear over there. So new Spurs order, show some love on the touchline group. And yeah, man, look, big up to everyone that's been inside. It's been a pleasure. Spurs are gonna get some armpits Europa League settings next week. We'll be back, but big up, man. TOBS, been a pleasure. Thank you.